boy, this is a great one today. We haven't really done a really fun one for a while. And this is things that we think maybe you would want to know. Now, Scott and I have this running joke for a long time. For some reason, it took me a long time, and like I'm a little dense sometimes, and I guess we all are, but
A little?
yeah, sometimes. So, um, for years, I when I went to buy something, it doesn't matter what it was. If it was in a package and it wasn't opened, I considered it new. And that's not necessarily the truth. It might not be opened, but it might not be new. And we could go with that with even foods. They're not open, but they a lot of them have an expiration date. And not that that matters all the time, because sometimes the expiration date you can still eat it, but some things you wouldn't want to eat if the can was messed up or whatever. But for my reasoning at first, I just didn't think if it wasn't opened and it was in its package, it was new. So for a while, I'd go around and I'd buy these pins. This is one of my pet peeves because I probably have 1,000 pins in my house. I'm not even joking. So I have 1,000 pins, but each and every time, each and every time I pick up a pin to write with, there's like, I mean, I have boxes of them. They just don't work because right now in Texas it gets cold and hot right now, so it's cold, and so I pick up a pen. It doesn't work. You can get a lighter and make it work, but that's one of the things I learned. Like if you were going to buy pens, you might want to check and see if they're really new because ink dries up. That was one of my biggest things. Scott and I had a running joke for years on that one. Uh, have you learned something? I've learned a lot lately. So, anything you learned lately that
I've learned that your $1 million idea is your $1 million idea, and not to pawn it off to somebody else by saying ink dries up, and you should come up with some sort of way to make sure the ink doesn't dry up. Somebody
okay,
else's
well,
map of the world is not your map of the world. So if you have a mission in mind and somebody else thinks they know what's best for you, like, oh, you should build your company or just get more corporate events. How easy is that? Like that may not be the case because, they may have not walked the walk or talked the talk or even understand what it takes to make something like that happen. So learn from people that have done what they've done already. And just because someone gives you advice and it seems confident and it seems like it makes sense, doesn't mean it is, doesn't mean it's true. I had somebody else online going, oh, this doesn't make sense, talking about the Bad Bunny show for the halftime performance or whatever. And my response to that was, just because it doesn't make sense to you doesn't mean it doesn't make sense, right? Like there's some sort of meeting I'm sure executives have going with whatever their 5 year or 10 year plan is. And just because you see something play out in front of you and you don't understand it doesn't mean you can't see the bigger picture. And that's what something most people should be asking themselves to begin with. Am I seeing everything for what it is? What am I missing? Should be your first question when you walk into any situation. What am I missing? Like I see this silliness happen in front of me, but what's going on here? How can I raise above? How can I educate and lift my thinking up to a point where you can understand what is going on here, and then while either correct course from what is going on in front of you, or engage in either engage, correct course, flee or fleet. What do they say? Fight or flight, right?
yeah,
So you either go in or go walk away. Like, and that's I guess with the
a
halftime
freeze.
show, yeah, with the halftime show, you can not watch it, like but to sit there and like, talk about it more, you're only feeding the fire. You're only like the algorithm doesn't care if you're saying good things or bad things, but you are giving it free publicity when you do talk about it. So that's something that you want to consider when things are going array or going astray, and like don't focus on things that you don't like. Focus on what the end goal is. If you're focused on the negative, like I hate these shirts that say never give up. Well, you're implanting give up in somebody's mind, even though the mind doesn't understand negation, right? So it doesn't understand the word never. Like all it understands is give up, and that's what you implanted in somebody else's brain by wearing a shirt that says never give up. Like that's just is completely silly to me, and like I can understand how somebody who would think something like that would be worth wearing, and then explaining to them, the conscious level of what that shirt's actually saying, you'd become the bad guy for even explaining that to frickin' begin with. So you just let people play out how they're going to play out, and well, how's that working for you? And if that works for you, fine. I guess you don't need to fix it. But if you wanted to put your foot in the frickin' good direction, you would want to at least understand the playing rules before you walked into the court, or walked onto the game or the playing field or whatever. And well, sometimes you're just ill-equipped, and to even acknowledge that you're ill-equipped takes self awareness. Put your ego in frickin' check. Like, what is the goal here? If you're focused on the negative, like never give up, then that's what you're gonna do. But if you say just strive forward, then you'd rather focus on that, right? Than never give up.
That
Sorry.
was a good rant. That was good. I didn't know we were going there today, but that was a good place to go. I was going in more of a practical. I was going to go to batteries. When I was a kid, 13 years old, my brother took my battery out of my car, and I put it back in, and I put the negative on the positive and positive on the negative, and my car started on fire.
Yeah. Well,
So do not do that. So if you don't know how to put your battery back in, have somebody do it for you. But red goes on red and black goes on black for the battery. Another thing about batteries, and this is it took me a long time to learn, and I bet a bunch of you haven't learned it yet. If you keep your batteries in even your speakers, and even in your everything, you got to check your batteries every once in a while because they'll corrode. And sometimes when they corrode, it takes your microphone out or any other thing. That could be a toy, that could be a radio, that could be anything because those batteries will corrode after a while. And the way, if you want to put something away for a year, you could do is you could take one of the batteries out and flip it and put it back in so you have a battery, but it won't be corroding as much. I mean, it could still corrode just because it's age, but it's not going to usually burn up whatever you're doing. So that's that little tip. Another good tip for your house is the number one thing that burns down a house is your dryer. So check your dryer vents and get all that dryer stuff out of there, all that lint out of your dryer because it's a fire hazard. And you should do that maybe once a year or whenever it builds up a lot. But I would check it if you haven't checked it in a year or more because that's another thing. Here's another thing that can burn down your house, going down and burning. Yeah,
yeah.
and a lot of times, if you have good breakers in your house, it probably wouldn't break. But if you have overload, and I mean, I do it too. Is you have one of these, what would you call that, where you can put a bunch of plugs in it just everywhere, a drop cord with a bunch of plugs.
Oh, a multi-tap.
Yeah, and so if you put too many in there, it could overrun and start a fire if you don't have a good breaker. So if you live in an old house, you got to watch out for fire hazards. And actually, all the time, if you put in anything faulty. Another thing I learned this week is when you're putting in a wall unit through the wall, you have to know what amperage it is. Because if you want heat and cool, you'll need usually a 230 20 amp. What I have is a built-in one that's not like a plug-in you would plug most of your stuff in, like a light or a vacuum, but I have one that's a 215. Now, that's a little bit stronger than a regular volt, but you have to have the right plug. And another thing I've learned is don't put adapters on those. Don't adapt them to another thing. You can burn your house down. So also, if you have a house in the 60s, and mine is in the 60s, and it doesn't have if you have too thin, if you don't have thick enough wire, gauge of wire, and you put something in there, again, it could burn down your house before it even does breaker, if the breaker's not good. So that's a very handy thing think about your electricity and your batteries because these power you, but they can be dangerous. Mostly electricity is more dangerous than batteries, but batteries, Oh my gosh. I had I have a convertible, G6 convertible, and my battery in the last 3 years went out 5 times. So what that means usually is something's, well, of course something's draining it, but there's a slow drain on it. The other thing it could cause is ice. And as we're talking about ice, here's one thing. Now we're not talking about those guys getting the aliens. We're talking about if it freezes where in your area, you need to cover your water stuff outside so it doesn't freeze. Back to serious, Scott. What are we talking about on your side? And I agree with you. People need to learn before they speak sometimes that and get angry at people and say, "Oh, why should they do that?" They don't even know what they don't know. So sometimes we understand people don't know what they don't know, and they say stuff that kind of puts us on the edge because they're we don't consider that very smart because they're making a judgment without anything backing it. So watch yourself when you're making judgments with not really looking into what it means. And if you're, because then you go into the Dunning-Kruger effect, because Dunning-Kruger basically you think you're smart and you're not very smart. And the other way is you think you're not as very smart and you're really, really smart, but you don't think you are. So either way of those. But what we want to do is what we might want to do instead of me telling you what you want to do is look into things just like the things we're talking about today, just real silly things like I didn't know ink dried up. I really didn't. I didn't understand the concept, and it was, and that's silly because I should have. Should is a big word too. So I thought, and I still get mad at it. And the thing is, me getting mad at something that's going to happen anyway is just insanity. That's what we call insanity when we already know it's going to happen and then we get mad at it. Either go buy new pens, figure out, get your lighter out, or, you know, quit grumping. We don't need to grump about stuff. We just need to fix it. The reason I know so much about electricity this week, I spent about 100 hours looking for a window unit, but then I found it's not a window unit. For air conditioning, it's a wall unit, and there's two big distinctions between window and wall. Window has ventilation everywhere. A wall unit, it has to be enclosed to go through the wall, and it has to come in from the front or from the back, or it'll burn your motor out. So that's one of the things you consider if you're putting a air conditioner through a wall. And I didn't realize that. And then I didn't realize that for it took me a week to understand the difference between a 220. I thought a 220 because a 220 and a 230, some of them look similar where there's two and a little mouth on bottom. And it took me, I had to call a master electrician. And this is what you do with electricity: call a master electrician. Don't think you know what the heck you don't know, because that's when your house burns down. And so you got to be very careful with that. And I learned that I have a 215, but it's not the regular 215. 30, it's a 230 15 and not a 20 amp. And that's what uh, I wish it was a 20 amp, then I could have got a bigger unit. But you got to get whatever unit works with your electricity. And that's a big learning lesson right there. And uh, what size fits in what sleeve, and then what's the best units, and that is a whole weeks of studying. So I guess that's kind of when you bought your wall, you started doing some of that, right? What was that thing you bought? The wall?
Oh, so yeah, I bought the LED wall, and well, basically, I was just going to chat about that a little bit. And like some people would probably stop themselves from doing a purchase that big because they, wanted to know the ins and outs. And well, that could be holding you up from actually making yourself to the next step. So, or if you're going to let fear control what your next moves are, or do you just need to make something move and then figure it out once you get it to your venue, or you get it sold, or get it to your, like, you can't sell it if you don't have it, right? So in then a lot of people out there could be like, oh, I need to know the ins and outs and how everything works, or like me, entrepreneurial thinks like they just get it and like jump off a cliff and build an airplane on the way down. So if you don't make any moves, nothing will happen. And like I guess the biggest step back is that like maybe you didn't make the moves and you couldn't make the sale and you're missing out on sales because you don't have the thing, or something else that could be holding you back would be like, oh, there's all these other people that already have it, how am I going to be able to sell mine? Well, any coach that I've ever had, ever any good that was worth anything, would say if there's already a bunch of people buying something, then you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to provide it as well. And like, well, there's so much competition that holds a lot of people back too, but they ain't you. They ain't you, right? So if there's already a market for it and there's a lot of choices for someone to choose from, that just gives you the sign to go ahead and make it, where someone who hasn't had any type of training would stop themselves from buying something because there was so much competition out there, not realizing that maybe the people giving you information that have this stuff to begin with just want to stop you from, being their competition or taking up from them growing or something like that. Like, do what the hell you want to do and figure it out. But one thing I would say is that don't try and reinvent the freaking wheel either. Like, again, I always go back to this guy who was like, oh, I'm going to go and sell these photo booths at this hotel because, I'm going to show them, how much money they can make or how valuable it is. And then I was like, well, is there anybody out there that's actually doing what you just said you wanted to do? He goes, no, I'm going to be the first. Okay, well, now there's two steps of freaking, persuasion in order to make something like that happen. Oh, number one, you're going to have to create a desire for something that nobody has a desire for. And then once you create it, then you have to convince them that you're the guy for the job. And then how do you do any of that if nobody's ever done it and you don't have any like, data points to prove anything? Like what? That's just like climbing up a wall. That doesn't make any sense. Like, or talking to a brick wall, like that just like already, if there's something already moving, you just go with the flow versus like trying to create something out of nothing. Now, that's not to discourage anybody who has a great idea and then wants to create something, because I'm not saying things can't be created. I'm just saying that you probably want to start with something that already has some sort of fire that you could get going and then create something later, right? Things to think about. These are the things I got from my coaches, and like when I talk to people, on like the street or in these Facebook groups, they just demonstrate how clueless they freaking are, and it annoys the shit out of me. Like, but they know it all.
There's always a flip of a coin to everything, I believe, no matter which way you go or whatever. I mean, I could give you some examples of the opposite, like Rocky or Kentucky Fried Chicken or
Sure.
McDonald's. So, yeah, some of those that, and when you have a dream, go follow it. I'd say go follow it. And if it doesn't work out, then you can do something else. But you'll learn a lot. This is the things I was talking about today. I learned this is stuff that I learned over a lifetime or 40 years or 60 years of being alive. I learned some of these little lessons that you don't have to. If you don't put oil in your car and you think it's going to go forever and you never check your oil, your motor's going to break and it's going to cost you a lot of money. So, no matter what, even if you don't do it, make sure somebody checks your oil every once in a while, because you don't want to have to buy a new engine. And did you know you can have brand new tires on your car that you think are brand new? Again, here's the thing of my thought. They're brand new. I bought them new. I have a convertible. Okay, I have a convertible, and I got it in 207, brand new convertible, brand new. I mean, brand new. Not even when I found out my wheel, I had to get new tires. It didn't even have like 10,000 miles on it. It's just I didn't drive it very much, and I had to get new tires within 10,000 miles. And I'm thinking that's not, you don't have to do that. But the point is that if your car sits there for 6 or 7 years and you don't drive it, the tires are going to die anyway. They say what, every 6 years or something, you need to check your tires. I have brand new tires on one of my vans, brand new, and they say I think you need to replace them. They're too old. And I'm like, I didn't know just because it got old it died. And it's the same thing with the ink. So be careful what you're doing and check your tires. And I'm not your tire man or anything, but do check your tires. And another thing is if you have a lawnmower that puts gas in it, don't leave the gas in there. It'll get water in it. It'll kill your lawnmower. So things to think about when you own a home. Uh, Wine doesn't last forever. So some people who hasn't, I learned this a long time ago, but wine, when you buy wine, you think, oh, I can just put it somewhere, but you can't. It'll turn on you. What's turning means it goes to vinegar or dies and it tastes terrible. And you have to know the difference in wines because there's Cabernet, Merlot will last longer than a red Zinfandel, but a white Zinfandel, but a red Zinfandel will live longer than a Merlot, and then a Cab will live longer than both of those. It depends on tannins. So these are things everything, these are examples of things you want to learn whatever you're getting and wonder how to make it last longer and treat it well. It'd be just maintenance. This is what probably the whole thing about today is. In my brain, I was saying, let's give people ideas that are what we have learned. And these are all things I've learned today with lots of effort, especially the fire ones. They're so important because you don't want your house to burn down. When I was a kid, my mom's friend burnt my room up, burn it up. And then I had a rental property in Missouri and the tenant burned it up. So I'm very aware of fire and things. And they were saying the cause of the fire was a faulty Christmas tree light. So think about that when you're putting your Christmas tree lights up. Are they good? Is it worth to go buy some new ones after 10 years? Yeah, probably. If they short out and burn your house down, yeah. So the things to think about. And I did like what you were saying about uh, you can't always. Okay, here's what the difference between me and Scott this week. Scott jumps and he's got a lot of brain power, a little bit more than I do. So he's going out there and he knows a little bit more and he's seen what he's buying, like with the example of that wall. And this week I've been searching on how to buy a new air conditioner and I learned a whole bunch. But at the end of it, if I would have bought the air conditioner I was going to buy first, I'd have had to bring it back. If our second or third, but now I'm down to, and I did study a whole bunch on it. So I'm down to the one I want. Now I have to figure out where I can get it with the plug I need. So, and if I can't, I have to get a different brand. And I know the brand I want, but it's taken a long while. And sometimes it would be quicker, just like Scott said, to make that it's not a mistake, just that, okay, this is not the right one. I need to get a different one, or I can use it different way. But I could have, whatever one I would have got, I would have used it somewhere else no matter what. So, again, because if you do not move, here's the thing, wheels in motion, stay in motion. But when they stop, you're done. So don't stop. Oh, or keep moving ahead because that was the same thing he was talking about. Don't stop. The unconscious just here stop. So it doesn't really it
Yeah.
negates.
Never give up.
So
Don't
if,
quit.
right. So if you think about it, don't think of a purple elephant. That's the example you can do. Don't think of a purple elephant, but you have to think about a purple elephant to not think about it. So it's just what it is. So, anything else? Let's say keep. Oh, here's another thing. In your car, keep your reflective stuff, like even your glasses or stuff, out of the sun because it can start a fire in your car. I'm into fire today. So and definitely be careful. And did you know in certain places you can burn your hand, get some degree of burn just putting your hand on uh, the hood of it when it's too hot. So be careful with heat. I've had to learn this all life, so I'm still alive. Um, oh, did you know? And here's another thing about air conditioners. Did you know if you have a a big air conditioner outside your house and you don't wash it off and get the dust out of it every so often, it can burn your motor out. So if you got a $10,000 air conditioner out there, every 3 months go out there with the hose and uh, get all that yickiness out of there. Because if you don't, it's going to overheat the motor and going to die. Or you don't have to do it. Just go get somebody to do maintenance on it. All this stuff is maintenance, you know. Uh, and, even on everything in your house, go figure out what needs to be fixed and get some of that done because it's going to save you money. You've ever heard a stitch in time saves nine? It really does sometimes. Uh, I've been doing everything like that, and life's getting a little better here. So don't let ooh, I did it. I was gonna do it again. Be careful with your life. It's your life, and what do you want to do with it? And uh, again, there's two types of regret. I think we talked about last week. Is the regret of doing something and it turning out not the way you expected. Okay, and the other one, which is the hardest, is doing something, not doing something because you're afraid of it and you never know, because you'll never know if you would have done it. Okay. So you're on your deathbed saying, oh, if I would have, if I could have, if I had a, if. So watch your if. So take that plunge, buy that thing that's going to help your business. You know, I'm right now thinking about buying. Scott and I were talking about him buying what's your Elon Musk car?
Tesla.
You were going to buy a Tesla sometime, and I'm thinking about buying something. I don't want a Tesla, but I want probably a good van that I can use for the next few years here. And I want to get a real nice one. So I'm working on that, and well, if you own a business, think about getting a tax advisor strategy because you can lose a lots of money without doing your taxes right. Um, I found out from my accountant that my new accountant is that I could probably take 50% off my home because I have more than 50% covered up with props. So I can use instead of using 10%, or you can use up to 50%. And because I'm using my garage, I'm using all my backyard, I'm using all the rooms. So get you a tax advisor if you've got a small business. Any other good little tidbits?
One thing that just came to mind, and I don't understand how this comes about, but I was telling when as I was buying the wall, I ran into a snag because there was a limit on how much you could charge on a credit card for the purchase, right? And then I was telling one of my colleagues about this. Like I'd already paid for half. I'm just waiting to make the second payment. And then I came up to a little bit of a snag because it reached some sort of limit within the purchaser. So I was telling my friend this. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm figuring it out. And then he goes, well, why can't you do it? And my response was, why the fuck does it matter? The wheel's already turning. Does like for me to go stop what I'm doing to find out why I can't do this doesn't make any sense. It just makes more sense to figure out how to get it done versus figuring out why I'm stuck.
Okay.
So how do you
So
make sense of that?
did, did you, well, I would say both have a merit. One is if there's a glitch on their side, then they need to fix it. If it's on your side, then you need to fix it. The other is get a different credit card. I
No,
mean,
no,
that's
no,
the
no.
quick
You
fix.
don't understand.
Okay. Well, I
You,
just learned right here. Tell me more. So
the credit card charge was $12,000, a little higher than $12,000. So no credit card on the planet because of the restriction on the website said you couldn't charge past that.
okay.
So it made no sense to find out why I couldn't do that. I could do a wire transfer
Oh
of
yeah, yeah.
funds.
Well,
So
because that's their rule anyway. If they put it
so
on their website,
so
that's
the
why.
you're missing the point here. Why look that up? of why. Like I didn't know when I made the purchase, but like it made more sense of my time to go figure out how to make a fucking business loan than it was to figure out why I was stuck.
Yes. No, I
like,
understand. Well, I mean,
like,
but you had the answer right there. It's because it's on the website and that's their policy. That's
oh,
the answer.
yeah, that's the, yeah, but it was like, he was like, oh, why? Like, well,
Oh,
does it matter
well, who
why?
cares?
That's
Yeah,
what it
I agree
is.
with you.
Like,
I agree with you. You
like,
don't need to know that how to make the wheel. You just need to know that the wheel works.
the wheel's already
Okay.
freaking turning. Like, I got to
Yeah.
figure out
So
how to get this thing here.
yeah.
Like,
So yeah, you just go. You figure out the solution. Yeah, I agree with you totally on that one. That you don't need to know everything about what's inside a computer. You just need to know that computer is going to work for you. And I don't need to know what components are in that computer. Well, does it have this, and this? I'm not really worried about that as long as it does what it needs to do for my business. Now, right. So yeah, because you
I had
cannot learn
information
everything in
overload.
earth.
All these
Nobody,
freaking experts telling me all this stuff, and it's like, well, fuck it. I'm just gonna buy the damn thing. Does it work?
right.
Okay, perfect.
I need it to do this. Will it do that? That's the question I need answered. If I buy it, will it do this? And that's what I need it for. Will it do it? And I don't need all the other steps. A
Yeah.
lot of so uh
I'll figure that out
that's
on the next purchase. I'll
right.
figure that out.
So when purchasing something like that, do your due diligence to study what you want, of course, but and don't let yourself up and be
Well,
careful not to let yourself
well,
be
you have to
stuck in
understand what
that
your
stuck.
parameters are. Like you
Yeah.
only have certain amount of budget, you want certain amount of product, and if you start messing with the parameters, then that changes the dynamic of what you're doing. Like I was told not to get rectangular panels because that's harder to put together on a job site, and I was like, well, fuck, if I get square panels, then that doubles the boxing and the shipping and the storage and everything. It's just not worth it. Like, you know. But everybody had like their own, like, oh, you got to do this and you got to do that and you got to do this, and it was like, well, I just need this. Like, and let's say a client comes along and I can't make whatever they want happen. Well, then it's not my freaking client. I'll go find more. Like,
Well, yeah, you and again what you said before, if there's about, everybody's getting one, that means there's a need for that. Now, what do you want to do after that? You want to get your own niche and your niche of your product in why would they want to buy from you instead of someone else? Because that's going to be on everything in life. You got to find your own niche if you're going to.
oh, people stay on the road and make, I don't know, millions a year doing whatever the hell I just purchased, right? Like I just gotta, well, I don't gotta do anything. I can just sit there and like my company's doing fine. I can still pay for the freaking thing if it never went out. Like, so it doesn't really matter, right? But it would be nice to make money on a purchase that I just made. But at the same time, like, do I? I could probably sell it and make my money back. It's already here. You don't have to deal with China. Like, so like, I don't know. I think people get really hung. I'm not a detailed person, right? I'm not. I mean, I do focus on the highlights or what needs to happen, but you could get lost in details if you want.
Well, in a big corporation, what I would say, you would have a little bit of everything. Like a Disney corporation would have uh, somebody who would find out all the faults. And they actually do have this room that they go in, and there's a dreamer room where they dream of what could happen. Then you have the practical room, basically what can it be done. The other room is what the pessimist room, pretty much saying what are all the things that could go wrong. Okay, and then you get all these groups together, and then they build on and make a better decision. Then you bring in a that guy who looks at all the parts together, in project manager type, who says, yeah, let's put all this together in, so all these rooms. So what another thing good you can do with this is do different hats. As yourself, you can put on a different hat. Here's my pessimist hat. Here's that all the things that could go wrong. Take that off. There's the optimist. This is all the great things for it. This the realist. And you can do that, and then you get in three perspective. Then you make the right decision. And or you can just do it anyway. What's best for you? Because
Another
uh,
guy was like, "Oh, you should go to Vegas and then check out what they have, and then maybe purchase from there." It's like I gotta spend fucking $1,200, or more. But by the time you buy the convention ticket, the airline out there, the hotel, eating, like you're down for a week. Like, no, nothing about that is exciting. Like,
right,
no.
and it would cost you more money to go do that than to just buy it and fix it.
Yeah, yeah.
So uh, I would today too. If anyone says you should, must, to, or ought to do anything, question it because there's hardly anything in the world you have to, must to, or should. It's you got to figure out what's right for you, and when you're asking them why should I? Because this should, when people should on people, that's just that's an opinion, and uh, hardly anything's after you get older, older like me or wiser people, um, nothing's usually black or white anymore. There's gray areas, and yeah, and when somebody says you should or must to or ought, it's basically takes all freedom away from doing anything else. So watch those words because when you do that to others, you trap them too if they take your advice. And when you give that kind of advice, then the people you give it to can come back and blame you. I did what you told me to do and it didn't work out. So they're gonna take the blame off themselves and put it on you. So watch when you're giving advice by saying somebody you must do, ought to, should, say you might want to. Just change that little word. You might want to look into instead of because that's not what we do when we help people. We don't give them the answer. We help them get the answer from themselves because if we do the other way, we're taking responsibility for it, and people need to take need we really want people to take responsibility for their own happiness and stuff because no one that
Well,
I know can give someone happiness.
you only use the word need when it's like attached to a desired goal. Like you don't actually need to do anything, but if you have a desired outcome, right? Like I want to lose weight, well then you would probably need to do some research on how to lose weight, right? Like so it just depends when someone else tells you that you need to do something, well, you can take it with a grain of salt, but you don't have to take it like because it's like, let's say someone tells you to do something, right? And they say the word need, and then you take what they say for it's worth its weight in gold, right? And then you go out and do whatever they said, and it didn't work out, right? Then, well, you told me I needed to do this, like, but if you didn't do the research yourself, it's like somebody else, what do they say? If I tell you to do something, I'm taking that responsibility.
Yes. If I tell you should, must, to, ought do anything, I take the responsibility off of you and put it on me. And yet, we don't, as helpers of people, we don't want that to happen. And we want the person in front of us, whoever they are, to take their responsibility because we can lead them out of the maze with a light, but we can't carry them out. They have to carry themselves
So
out.
that kind of goes hand in hand with persuasion, right? So a very direct way would, like for someone I don't know, let's say they're not strong egoed or easily manipulated, all right? Like in somebody who
Right.
somebody who deals with the personality can figure that out pretty quickly. It just by the way people talk. That's another thing too. When you're out there talking to people, like somebody like Jeff and I can hear your words and understand deeper levels that most other people haven't that who haven't been trained on this type of stuff would not be able to pick up on at all because they're just not it's not in their conscious mind, right? They just wouldn't be able to say hear what you said and then realize what you really meant, right? When we Jeff and Jeff is really talented too. He taught me a bunch of things that I didn't realize that would happen. Like, but anyway, um, I got off track there, but anyway, like, be careful what you're saying. If someone says you need to do something, your best bet would be to do some more research before you actually went out and did something. Take responsibility onto yourself. And well, again, when it comes hand in hand with persuasion, there's other ways to persuade people versus like telling them they need to do something. You could tell somebody a metaphor. It's a story that you still got past the critical factor, which if you don't know what that is, do some research. But you can tell somebody a metaphor, and then that basically leads them to whatever the desired outcome that you were hoping to point them to without you having your hands on it. Like I can tell you something about a story about somebody else, and then look you dead in the eye. But while you think I'm talking about somebody else, I'm actually saying the lines directly to you. And then I want you to ask yourself if that's the difference, or if it made any difference to you, or how did you pick that up? Did you absorb it as that, or did you absorb it as him telling the story? 9 times out of 10, the person who's delivering these lines are trying to get something past your your critical factor, whether they even know that's what it's called, right? They could have just been trained their whole life. Oh, I'm just going to tell this person a metaphor. And like, oh, I was talking to this guy named John yesterday, and I can't believe what a prick he was. And I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You're a prick," right? So you understand how that's removed, right? Like you think I'm talking about John, but I'm looking at you and I still said the words. That's a shitty example, but that's just what came to mind real quick.
Well, well, it
But
works. That's a good. Well, it's accurate. How's that? That
it's
you
yeah,
can
on the
when you're
spot. That was pretty good.
yeah.
But what it was, I don't know.
So basically, you're taking the heat off yourself, and you're still saying it to directly towards somebody, and you're saying it about somebody else, and you're doing it. So, almost anytime, like you said, you can help people out with metaphors by telling a story. So, because the unconscious goes offline a lot of times, where the conscious goes offline when somebody says, "Once upon a time there was," and now it's going, "Oh, there was a what?" And then you start listening more intent and
Oh,
going,
it's
"Oh,
story
I like
time.
that story.
Story
Yeah,
time.
yeah, story time." And uh, and very, very good with uh, you know storytelling. Golly, see, I'm getting old. I should have known it right off. Who's the best hypnotist ever lived?
Milton Erickson.
Yeah, Milton Erickson, and that's what mostly he did was metaphors and stuff,
Yeah,
stories.
a lot of people reference him as a hypnotist, but he wouldn't even call himself a hypnotist. He was just him, like, but the end result was still the end result, right? Like, so, and again, think of it like this: all these words that we come up with, they're just words to explain something that's non-existent. like conscious and subconscious. I mean, those things probably didn't exist until we came up with words, and then your mind was like, "Oh, okay, well that makes sense," and it just went with it, right? Like, these are what do they call fugazis, fuguzis?
I don't know that word. I don't know that.
It never exists.
Oh, never existed.
Fugazis, fuguzi.
I haven't ever heard that word. So
It's
I
in
learned
it's in the
something new.
movie I watch all the time.
Okay.
The Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, okay.
He's like, it's a fugazi, a fuguzi, whatever. It never.
I'll have to watch that.
It's my favorite movie.
So what else new? Anything? Did you learn anything on any like you say DJ stuff? What did I learn this week on? I'm working with a new. I've worked through 80 other agents, but I was working with this new one, and I usually go, "What do you need to know? What do I need to know to book a gig? I need to know time, date, place. I need to know contact name and number. I need to know what we're providing, and I need to
Oh,
know,
was your show time different than your setup time? Do you have to
yeah,
be down for a bunch of time? Like, there's a bunch of stuff.
right. And
Are you
right
paying
now,
for parking? Like,
yeah. And so I'm just right now I'm still it's giving me the client's name and number, but I haven't figured out if the client's is the contact or is the agent the contact? And I mean, I'll figure that out, but I'll have to call them. But on the contract, it didn't stipulate, and usually it
You
does.
want to talk about contacts, contracts, and verbal agreements?
No, no, but that's what I didn't really,
Uh,
we can because some
I've
of it, and then
I've got a good one
oh,
for
we can
verbal agreements.
oh, how'd that work out? Did it work out pretty good on that? Or did it ever
Uh,
work out?
it's interesting, that's for sure. Um, it gave
You
me
might
an opportunity to teach my crew what framing meant. Do you understand what framing means?
pretty much you put yourself frame it the way you want and then tell your own story and try to get
Yeah.
everybody to believe your story is the right story. And this is how I saw it. Basically, we're going to frame it this way.
And then you, well, as a reframer, take the words the other person used and
And
then challenge it.
manipulate them, challenge it.
I challenged it. I didn't manipulate it. I don't think. I challenged it. It was something along the lines of, I don't mind working with you, or I don't mind. There was a word that was, being flexible. I don't mind being flexible with you. And I said, I didn't realize an agreement was you being flexible.
And this is here's a good thing, guys. Listen to this. We don't have to talk about what he just said, but one thing is really important later on if when you're really doing a lot of business, if you're not doing it already, friggin' make a contract for almost every single event you do. And there might be an exception here and there, but I would
Yeah,
say always
record all your
a
calls.
written, and you get it signed. It's written and signed, and it says this is what's happening at the event. This is how much money's going to be paid, and this is if somebody's going to provide parking or not, because these are all things you need to know, especially if it's at a hotel. You could have to pay $50 to park or to $75 just to park. So when you're putting in the contract for your entertainer, always get that they get parking or valet, and then valet could even be more than that. So of course, put that in your contract. Also put on how much they're getting paid, how much is overtime, who tells them, if there's overtime, what the rate is for overtime. I just put same because, some will say, can we get a discount? No, no, it's the same rate. So, who, and if sometimes if you're doing a lot of overtime people, you might want to even get a slip that has the contact has to sign it for overtime or we don't do it. I don't have much problem with it. Some of my people, and only one actually, stays as long as he wants and usually gets paid. But he knows if he doesn't get paid for the overtime, then he doesn't get it. So, but they always give it to him because he's so good. But but that's the only one I'll do it with the best, the number one. So other than that, have it in your contract because it'll save you lots of trouble, lots of heartaches later. Um, so in verbal contracts, don't it's unless you get a recording. Unless you get a recording, verbal contracts are pretty much null and void. And
Well,
nowadays,
here's something I don't think people understand about narcissists, right? They'll say something that's pretty vague, and then they'll leave it up for interpretation. And what they want you to do is lose your fucking mind over what vagueness they said, because when they're having a conversation, some of it's true, some of it's not true, and then it's up to you to decide, how you want to spin it, turn it, look at it, pivot it, right? But if you don't have it recorded, then it's just left up in the air, right? So people that are really good at this, they've been doing it the whole freaking life. So your best bet to stave yourself, right, is to record everything, have everything in paper, and then if you have questions, go back over it, right? So they'll pull the sympathy card. Oh, I'm just trying to do the best that I can, or this client really left me in a hurdle because it took them forever to fill out the paperwork. Feel bad for me, and that's what I got. That's what I got. And well, if you could just say, well, it sounds like you need to get your shit together for the next one, well, then that's all you can do. right? Like, I don't give a shit that this one's hard. You told me that you've been in business for X amount of years and you have a signed contract. And now all of a sudden, because they couldn't fill out their form, you can't get it together. I don't believe that shit at all. Like,
That was a bait and switch. And
yeah.
so you got to really watch out for bait and switchers. And if you find one, then you have to decide, do you really want to work with them? Uh, because the time it really important might be the time that they really screw you. This is the true about a bait and switcher. Yeah, right now it's so little, or it's only 10, 15 bucks or
Oh
whatever they
man.
bait and switch. But later on, when you really need it and it's like thousands of dollars and they bait and switch you, and you already knew they're a bait and switcher, uh, and they do it to you, it's your fault too. So it's sort of like a giver gives and a taker takes. Just know who you're dealing with, and if you decide to deal with them, know you're playing with fire, and sometimes you get burnt, and that is the truth. So same way with these matches. When you start a match, what are you going to burn? It could be your finger, or it could be your
Burn,
hands.
baby, burn. All right, so that's all
You
I
know,
told
my
you
brother, my
guys.
brothers, my two brothers got under and started the house on fire when they were kids.
Well, there you go.
So watch out for fires. Put
All
out the
right.
fires before they take your house.
Well, I got a lot of things on my plate today, so